Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting today. Today was supposed to be dress down day. In the summertime, we normally don't wear ties. We wear sports coats, or sports jackets, possibly, and not shorts. But we changed our mind at the last minute. We're going to do a picture later today. So, and I know that's useless information, so I apologize. But welcome. I'm glad you folks are here. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Conflict of Interest Act. State it now. Hearing none, we'll move right along then to, I have a move by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the minutes of the town of Minto, May 21st, 2024, regular council meeting be approved. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. So before we start, I'm going to ask again if we have speakers today, and everyone else, please use the mic. And when you're approaching the podium, state your name. I'm going to ask everybody to be kind. Be very kind on what you're saying. We're going to try and be nice to each other because it is public question period. And I'm going to ask as well, no repeat questions. And going to, as last week, 2 weeks ago, I read what a question period should be. Try and hold your questions to 2 minutes or to 2 questions, and ask your question if you don't mind. Get to the point, and we'll try and answer the question. If not, our clerk will take the question down, and we will respond to the question. Okay? All right. Thank you. So we're going to move into Committee of Adjustment. I have moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the, let me start again. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Town of Minto Council convene into Committee of Adjustment. All in favor of that motion? Okay, so our first public meeting, I'm going to call the public meeting to order. I'm going to state that any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no 2 applications are exactly the same. This public hearing is to consider a minor variance application, MV 2024-04, the Sundrinder Chaudray. So I'm going to ask Secretary Treasurer McRobb to state the information needed.
Thank you, Chair Turton. The property subject to the proposed minor variance application is legally described as Minto Concession 1, Part Lots 21, 22, Fuller and Watson Survey Lots 72 to 74, Part Lot 71, Register Plan 61R20712, Parts 1, 2, 3, and 6, and is municipally known as 255 Norman Street, Palmerston in the town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 2,806 meters squared, or 30,236.46 feet squared. The purpose and effect of the minor variance application is to provide relief from the minimum lot area requirement within the R3 zone for a proposed 20-unit apartment building. Clause 13.2.3.1 requires a minimum lot area of 3,223.8 meters squared, or 34,687.9 feet squared, under the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw as amended. Whereas the existing site is 2,806 meters squares, 30,236.46 feet squared in size. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies on May 22nd, 2024, and posted on the subject property on May 22nd, 2024. The following reports were received and attached for council's review was from the town of Minto, as well as from Wellington County, and correspondence from Greg Porter. I can advise that registered to speak through Zoom today is Rachel Pivoy.
Thank you, Annaline. Is Terry on Zoom?
So we do have both Terry and Sama on Zoom.
Okay. Perfect. So they're next on the agenda. I'm going to ask our Town of Minto Director of Building and Planning Services to provide some comments.
Looks like Sama is up there.
Sama? Good afternoon, Sama.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairperson and member of committee. The application before the Committee of Adjustment pertain to a property located at 255 Norman Street in Palmerston, owned by Surinder Chaudhry. The owners aim to construct a 793.7 square meter 20-unit apartment building. The property zoning is MU1-11, allowing users permitted in the R3 zone, subject to the applicable regulations. The minimum lot area within the R3 zone is based on the number of units proposed. In this case, with the 20 residential unit proposal, a lot area of 3,223.8 square meter is required, whereas the existing site is 2,806 square meter, which has caused the owner to apply for this minor variance application. The property's former lumberyard building was destroyed by fire a few years ago, with only the a foundation remaining, so the property is considered vacant. The application has been circulated to relevant agencies and property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. Written submission has been received by the town from Greg Porter, who owns and operates a cabinetry manufacturing business at 305 Norman Street, expressing concerns about the impact of the proposed apartment building on their business operations due to the differing land uses. As the committee is aware, the concerns that Mr. Porter has raised include noise, dust, odor, garbage, and parking. Staff are aware of these differing land uses and have previously contemplated the implication between the two properties. For the committee's information and consideration, and to address the concern that Mr. Porter has raised, with regards to the noise concern, the proposed development requires site plan control. Through that process, staff may ask for a noise impact study to be completed by the owner. This study would identify the noise level received by this property and will also identify any construction modification needed to mitigate any excessive noise. Regarding dust and odors, the emission of dust and odors leaving a site is deemed as a spill under the Environmental Protection Act and is regulated by the Ministry of the Environment, Climate and Parks, the MECP, and can't exceed their limitation. With respect to the contamination and pollution concern, through the site plan control process, a record of site condition is required to be filed with the MECP to a residential standards. This includes both phase 1 and 2 studies, as well as any remediation of the site if contaminants exceed MECP regulations. With regards to the parking concern, the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 1.5 on-site parking spaces to be provided per unit, inclusive of barrier-free parking spaces. The owner is able to provide the required parking on-site, and it's not proposing to reduce the parking amount. This portion of Norman Street currently contains an asphalt boulevard area, which is proposed to remain. And last one is regarding the garage concern. Zoning bylaw requires on-site garage storage for this development to be provided, and the owner is not proposing relief from this. With the current draft proposal, the owner is proposing to install a Mula garbage collection system for their tenants. Staff have been advised that an additional oral submission will be presented virtually. And Town of Minto staff have met and discussed the application and have no concern with the proposal. Staff does note that a large municipal sanitary sewer main bisects the property, and due to its condition during the redevelopment of this site, the town intends to replacing it. The owner has been made aware of the town's intention to replace it. The staff felt that it's necessary to reiterate to the owner that the town doesn't have the sanitary sewer replacement amount budgeted, and until the owner has advised the town of redevelopment schedule, it will remain unbudgeted. With the zoning bylaw lot area requirement being based on the residential unit number proposed, staff would like to advise the committee that the existing lot area would permit an apartment building of 16 units without any zoning relief. The application successfully met the foretaste of the minor variance under the Planning Act. It's deemed minor in nature and aligns with general intent and purpose of both the zoning bylaw and official plan. If the committee has any questions, Terry and I are happy to answer them.
Thank you, Sama. We'll hold the questions for a couple minutes if you don't mind. Our senior planner, Jessica Rahm from Wellington County. Do you have anything to add, please?
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I was just going to add that we've been asked to comment on the county official plan. So that's what my comments have provided. So the lands are designated industrial designation there, but they do have the mixed use zoning already on the property. So there's a section in the county official plan 13.8.1 that allows for non-conforming uses to be allowed if the zoning doesn't comply with the official plan designation. It can be a hindrance on a property owner if we did not consider this section of the official plan. So that is why planning staff is in support of the application, because it does have the zoning to allow for the apartment use. I just wanted to mention a bit more too. The intent of a minimum lot area is to accommodate parking, buffering, garbage, and the applicants haven't requested any other additional relief other than the minimum lot area. They've provided some additional some preliminary drawings that have indicated they can contain this all on the site. So another reason why staff are in support of the application. And that sums up my report.
Thank you, Jessica. So I'll ask the owner.
Through
Sorry,
you,
go-
Chair Turton, I believe Caroline is on as a participant right now. We'll just have to
Okay,
bring her up on Zoom.
okay.
If we just give her a minute. And she's just coming on shortly here.
Okay, so we have the owner of the lot, Caroline Prochaska, who's going to be
She is
on
the
Zoom.
applicant. Yes.
Pardon?
She is the applicant on our behalf.
She's the
Yeah,
applicant.
I'm the applicant. I work with the firm Burnham Architects. I'm the architect working with Surinder Chaudhary on this proposal. Good afternoon, everybody. I think Sama and Jessica have pretty much summed up everything I had hoped to say. And so I can give a quick summary. It's the property at 255 Norman. The only relief we're seeking is the reduced lot area. We do, as has been said, meet the R3 requirements for the parking at 1.5 stalls to a unit. We've got garbage on site. We are not nearly approaching the permitted lot coverage for this zoning. And we're looking to provide some valuable housing into the community. So the reason we're seeking the 20 units is because it adds financial feasibility to the project instead of going with the 16 cap. I wanted to respond also to some of the notes in the neighbor's written submission. There was one question about the contamination. We have gone ahead and pursued the environmental assessments required towards the record of site condition, which will be required to
I'm sorry, if I may.
Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead, Caroline. We're having a little trouble hearing you. Could you
Oh.
speak into the mic?
A little more.
Yeah. Can you hear me better now?
A little bit, it's not good.
I'm sorry about that. This mic doesn't usually
We're
give
going to
me
make an
trouble.
adjustment. We have our sound technician going to turn the volume up.
Perfect.
If you go
Okay,
ahead.
Matt, Caroline, do you want to try that now?
Is that any better now?
I would say yes.
Okay, I will try and speak slowly and more clearly.
Okay, thank you.
So just responding to the neighbor's concern about the contamination, the owner has gone ahead with some due diligence work ahead of site plan to do the environmental assessment required for a record of site condition. Both the phase 1 and phase 2 were completed. And the conclusion of the phase 2 is that based on the data collected, the subject property can be used, the report on the subject property can be used as the basis for filing of a record of site condition. So to our best understanding at this time, we will meet the requirements for the acceptable risk level for building a residential development. So I wanted to put that forward just to circle back on that item. I don't think I have anything additional to add. The planners have said everything for me. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. So anybody wishing to speak to the application can come to the podium right now.
Through
If there's-
you, Chair Turton, we do have Rachel
Yes,
Pivoy on Zoom.
okay.
If we can ask her to unmute.
Hello.
Hello, Rachel.
Most of what of our concerns were have also been spoken to already, but mainly much like our neighbor. Our concerns were generally the same of the noise and garbage as we actually live directly across from the vacant lot. As well as generally speaking of, as this is a small community, larger isn't always better. I did hear of the speak of just making it more affordable, but why can't it still be made affordable within its current limits or as the 16 unit? As it is a generally very busy street with the mill at the end of the road, and we already have a lot of transport trucks, as well as there's a lot of up and coming families and small kids that speeding has been an issue already on the road. So with just the additional of necessarily 20 young families, just the added concern of increased traffic, noise, garbage is what has already been stated, as well as encroaching on the green space that it falls back on, as it is a very popular trail that it would potentially encroach on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. I appreciate your input. I'm going to open it up now to, like I said, anybody here that wants to speak to the application, please come to the mic. Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to council and the committee. One question in reference to Craig Porter, and also Rachel. I'm sure there are some legitimate questions there, and I'm glad to hear that we spoke to them, talked to both these folks, and given them an opportunity to speak and responded to some of their concerns. So hopefully we've settled all that. Caroline, are you still on the line? Is there anything you want to respond to?
Oh, well, I can respond, just, I mean, reiterate that garbage is handled on site. It'll be a private pickup service. I don't see a motivation for anyone to take their garbage elsewhere if it's handled on site. Regarding the green space, the existing, I believe it's an old rail trail. It's the rail corridor has been converted to a recreational trail. That will remain untouched. I believe there is a fence between this property and that trail at this time. It's somewhat derelict, and we would certainly propose to improve that. So there shouldn't be any physical encroaching onto that trail. It should remain open and accessible as it is now. It has a trailhead on Inkerman Street.
Okay. If there's no other, go ahead, sorry. Deputy Mayor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm just curious, it notes that the sewer replacement isn't budgeted within this year. Do we have a time frame for it? And is that going to jive with looking at timelines or issues concerning that?
Yeah, we're currently in discussion with the developer for timelines on when the development wants to move forward, and we'll work together with them to get that replaced.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, Secretary Treasurer McRobb, can you read our decision, notice of decision? Likely positive? Please.
Certainly. Thank you. Just like to note that upon a resolution being carried or defeated, the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of the decision. The decision I have here is that we approve the application by Sundar Chaudhary for a property legally described as Minto Concession 1, Part Lot 2122, Fuller and Watson Survey Lot 72 to 74, Part Lot 71, Register Plan 61R20712, Parts 1, 2, 3, and 6, municipally known as 255 Norman Street, Palmerston, in the town of Minto to provide relief from clause 13.2.3.1, which requires a minimum lot area of 3,223.8 meters squared or 34,687.9 feet squared.
So we need a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Dirksen. No other questions? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of the Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Hairston, NOG 1ZO, or by email at annaline@town.minto.on.ca. And I'm going to officially adjourn this public hearing, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for joining. So I've got a resolution moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Elliott. The Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment convene into Committee of the Whole. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. We now have a public meeting. ZBA 2024-05 zoning bylaw amendment. Fenoro Homes. I'm going to act as the chair of the public meeting. And I'm going to ask that anybody pertaining to this meeting is signed in. Or did you already say that, Annaline?
I did ask people that were, as they were coming in, but I did not since we started the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on. I'm going to state the following, that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Minto before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the town of Minto to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Going to ask Clerk McRobb to give the description of this property, please.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. The property subject to the proposed amendment is located at Plan 61M250, Blocks 48 and 52, Lots 4 to 45, Ann Street West, Bean Street, Thackeray Way, Harrison, in the town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 2.44 hectares or 6 acres in size. The purpose and effect of the proposed amendment is to rezone the subject lands from residential R2 and residential R3 zone to site-specific residential zones R2-XX and R3X-XX. This amendment is to allow for a 55% lot coverage for all residential dwelling types, single detached, semi-detached, and townhouses. This amendment is also requesting a reduced exterior side yard setback of 4.5 meters or 14.8 feet, a reduced daylighting site triangle of 4.5 meters, 14.8 feet, and a reduced rear yard setback of 3.9 meters or 12.8 feet to the unenclosed covered rear yard deck. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the subject property on May 14th, 2024. Reports and comments were received from Wellington County, from the town of Minto, and from Maitland Valley Conservation Authority.
Thank you, Annalene. I'm going to ask Jessica Harim, a senior planner, Wellington County, to comment on this comprehensive zoning bylaw number 01-86. Jessica.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So today's statutory public meeting is for the lots located on Ann Street West, Bean Street, and Thackeray Way in the south end of Harrison. The subdivision was draft approved in December of 2021, and Phase 1, which includes all of these lots, was registered in December of 2022. During that time, the application did go through a zoning amendment to rezone the lands to the straight R2 and R3 zone. So at that time, the intent was to meet all the zoning requirements in the town's bylaw. Today's meeting will provide the opportunity for council, community, and area residents to ask any questions or seek information from the applicant. The applicants are here today, so if you do have any questions directed at them, they would be able to answer those. The subject lands are designated residential and zoned residential R2 and R3. The applicants are proposing to rezone the lands to a site-specific residential zone. This would allow for the 55% lot coverage for the single and semi-detached units. It will also allow for a reduced exterior side yard setback and the daylight site triangle, as well as allowing for the rear yard encroachment for the unenclosed covered rear yard deck. The R2 zone, which permits the single and semi-detached dwellings, require the relief for the lot coverage, where the townhouse doesn't require relief for the lot coverage, as those are usually restricted by the setbacks on the property, just being smaller lots in general. So this application was brought forward based on an inquiry for a covered deck. So in the town's zoning bylaw, as soon as the deck becomes covered, then it gets captured in the lot coverage. So that was kind of where the application started. And then planning staff have had discussions with the applicants on how we're going to move forward with that. We have discussed with them that the deck will remain unenclosed so that it does remain amenity space and not considered part of the living space. The dwellings, the single, semis, and townhouses are all required to meet the rear yard, the interior side yard, and the front yard setbacks. So the only relief that they are asking for is the exterior side yard. So that would only be on the corner lots. And the We've also discussed with the applicants in terms of wording the bylaw, when we do come back with a recommendation report, it'll be specific to have the setbacks to the foundation of the dwelling to meet the 7.6 meters, which is required in the zoning bylaw, and any additional outside of the 50, or outside of the those setbacks, it's considered the encroachment for the covered deck only. So planning staff felt more comfortable with that approach in terms of, rather than just doing a straight 55% lot coverage for everything, it was, to reduce the rear yard, we wanted to make sure that it was just the encroachment of the deck as opposed to a reduced rear yard, because then all the dwellings could go back that far. But other than that, I think that sums up my report for today. If you have any other questions, I can answer them.
Thank you, Jessica. We'll save the questions for a few minutes. I'm going to ask our Minto Director of Building and Planning, Terry Kuipers, if Terry's on, or Sama is going to report again. Sorry, Sama, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. In addition to Jessica's presentation, the application has been circulated to the required commenting agencies mailed to property owners within 120 meter or 400 feet of the subject property, posted on the subject property with no concern being brought forward. The town has received a comment from Minto Valley Conservation Authority stating that these lands are within the Harrison Special Policy Area and are affected by floodplain. They have no objection as the application generally conforms with the natural hazard policies of the provincial policy statement. Minto Valley Conservation Area noted that a development permit from them will be required for any development within the flood fringe and a 15-meter extension of flood fringe boundary. Public Works noted that the applicant must verify that the proposed increase in lot coverage still conforms with the original grading design and the stormwater management plan that I received a letter from Moorfield's engineer, and she confirms that a storm system can handle the additional lot coverage. I just received it. So staff is aware of drainage concerns from the house's frontage on Lorraine Street, and as such is required all drain leaders to the connected to the storm sewer within Bean Street opposed to the discharge to the swale at the rear of this lot. If council has any question, Tri and I are happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Sama. I'm going to ask owner applicant Peter Finoro, if you want to say a few words. Peter, state your name and step up to the podium. Welcome to our council meeting today. I'm not sure how many times you've been here, Peter, but
This
you're
is
here
my
now.
first time here. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you for coming.
I'm Peter Finoro. I'm one of the owners, my brother and I, of Finoro Homes. And we are looking forward to building in this community. And we do need a little bit of adjustment on some of our lots here just to make some people happy. We have a customer that required or asked for this covered deck area, and we're hoping that it can get passed to conform with all your bylaws and make this community another homeowner happy here. So if anyone has any questions, we're not looking to get the building envelope any larger. We're just trying to accommodate this covered deck area.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Questions? Anybody have any questions, council? I mean, this person that's purchasing this obviously has likely lived in a house before that didn't have a covered deck, and I think that's a good addition to that. So if there's no questions? Mm-hmm. Yep, so Deputy Mayor Anderson, you're being very quiet today.
I just have a simple question. I think I'm just not familiar with the terminology, daylighting site triangle. What is that? I'm assuming it refers to the amount of daylight allowed into the home?
That
or-
would be on the corner lot. Maybe Jessica can explain that a little bit.
So through you, Mayor Turton, it's on a corner lot. It's just that triangle that's taken out to allow for cars and pedestrians to have a view. So
I just
typically-
never seen that phrase before. I was trying to think.
it's the wording in the bylaw, so that's how we've used the same wording as that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? All right. Peter, no other comments?
No, not at this time.
Okay,
Thank you for having me.
thank you very much, and I'm very sorry you missed the mayor's breakfast.
We'll make the next one.
So, moving right along. Going to state that if you wish to be notified of the decision of the council of the town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto, 5941 Highway 89 Hairston, NOG 1Z0, or by email at annaleen@town.minto.on.ca. And if there's no further comments, I'm going to adjourn this public meeting. So, thank you very much. We're going to move along. Delegations. Don't have any delegations today, but we have public question period. So I understand there's a few questions out there that possibly on the floor today. So,
I requested a delegation, but they're not.
yes, it was. So, but a public question period is open now. If anybody is, again, Bonnie, I asked you to state your name and speak into the mic, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor Turton and councilors. My name is Bonnie Docker. I'm a retired commercial banker. I own a small business and I live in Palmerston. My first question is for Mayor Turton. Mayor Turton, did you take into consideration Heather Wickenheiser's email of May the 1st, 2024, when you responded to Irene Dooley's question from the last council meeting? Specifically, the petitioner stated in her email of May the 1st, the petitioner stated in her email, you know, my purpose here is not to embarrass anybody, especially in front of their peers. So I think Mayor Turton, you know what we're talking about here. So I'm not going to mention names. I'm just going to blank it out.
Okay?
In Ms. Wickenheiser's email,
Mm-hmm.
she stated, informed me after what it was actually for. So she identified the source of why she changed her petition, why she wanted to withdraw it. I don't know if you took that into consideration when you responded to Irene's email.
So that's your question, Bonnie?
That's my question.
Uh,
That's one.
Yeah, so I absolutely did. I read that email numerous times before I responded to Irene. We have no control over what people do in their backyards. And that particular day, they
But
were,
that was before the petition, we had
Yeah.
common council, it was all before that. She says, informed me what it was actually for. So she is injecting her own opinion even before we had common council with the
Right.
petition.
so I read that as basically those two folks were talking to each other, and the one neighbor had an idea of what the petition, what she was signing, and the other neighbor explained to her what it was, because we seen the petition long before, not long, but a few weeks before it went out to the public,
The petition was submitted April the 30th,
okay?
okay? And she says in May the 1st,
Mm-hmm,
our council meeting was May the 7th. So it's all conjecture out there. Well, what it is what it is. That's all they had to read was the
Yep.
petition. They didn't come to us. So my original question that I sent to everybody on council on May the 5th was, is it considered fair business practice for a town employee to inject her own opinions in council matters, even before it's brought to council? That was my original, and I never received a response for that, which is why Irene posed the question at the last meeting.
okay, so Irene's not happy with my response. I did respond,
Yes.
but I'll certainly, I will reconsider. I will take it up with our CAO, because that was my own personal thoughts on that. And
Because Ms. Wickenheiser addressed her email to Annalee dated May the 1st.
Yep. Okay. I'll get back to you on that, Bonnie.
Yeah. My second question is, has the cultural roundtable or their subcommittees met in 2024?
Yes.
I think
We have
so.
had minutes come to the council.
I think
Okay.
we've had
The answer is yes. We have had minutes come to the council.
Okay, so, and I gotta confess here that I am the least techie person probably in this room. But why have the minutes been removed from the town's website?
Annaleen, go ahead.
Sorry, I can speak to that. The minutes of all the committees and subcommittees go through the council agendas. So you will see them noted on there. That's how they come to council. They're not being removed. They're added onto the agenda, but council has to approve those minutes. So if you look on any of our agendas, if there has been a committee, such as cultural roundtable, economic development, they're all on our council agenda. So they can all be found online.
But they were identified separate before because we had printed them out and all of a sudden they've been removed.
I haven't removed anything, so we have changed our website. We can look into that, though. Thank you for
Okay.
letting us know.
I'm specifically talking about the minutes of February 26, 2024.
February 26, 2024, for Cultural Roundtable.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Annaleen, you'll respond to that?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Churton, Deputy Mayor Anderson, and all the council. My name's Heather, and I'm a resident of Minto for about 7 years. Mayor Churton, could you allow me to cite 2 brief facts that I believe will assist you in answering my question properly?
So you're going to present the two facts and then ask the question? All right, I'll allow that, thank you.
On February the 20th, 2024, a delegation of Minto residents presented council with a petition of about 130 names signed by Minto residents supporting a change in the bylaw to include Sunday hunting in Minto. The request was granted on March the 5th, 2024. Just before May 7th, 2024, Minto Council meeting at Minto Council, just before May the 7th, 2024, which was the Minto Council meeting, a petition was presented to council with approximately 900 signatures of Minto residents who were for a change in the bylaw in question. The 900 residents who signed the petition represented a cross-section of representatives of the total residents. There were hundreds of homes we did not get to. In lieu of these 2 facts,
So Heather, 900 names on the petition. I don't think it was ever discussed, more names being added to it. In reference to your request on the gun bylaw, we
Sorry.
seen, sorry.
If
go
I can,
ahead.
I've just received notification that it's nearly impossible to hear anyone speaking into the podium right now. Can we please check that mic or switch it out, Matt?
Maybe put two up.
I don't think it was on. Thank you.
All right, so do you want me to ask Heather to ask those questions again or state those two for
Even
the
if you,
record?
even if you just kind of repeat what she said, just to, that would be probably good.
All
Or if
right.
she wants to state her questions again, that would be good.
Okay,
Okay, well,
let's,
from the
let's go,
beginning.
let's go to the
Absolutely.
Thank you,
question.
Heather.
Basically, what you're asking is, we moved rather quickly on the Sunday hunting,
Yes,
but the other petition, it's taken a little more time,
yes.
okay? That's your question?
Well, that, and I was wondering as well, why 900 signatures have not been enough to move this, this bylaw change.
So my impression is 900 is quite a few, and we give a commitment at last council meeting that we were going to try and move this ahead in our second meeting in June.
Okay.
Okay, and so I can't remember us asking for more names. So, I said the last meeting, both meetings, the last two meetings, that this will be taken serious, and we're going to try and have something by the second meeting in June.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much.
All right, thank you for the question.
My name is Bonnie Hollinger, Mayor Turton and councillors. My two questions are, I submitted for a delegation today, and I'm asking why I was not formally denied. In fact, I asked specifically because I didn't understand the language from Annaline when she sent the message back saying, or you sent a message to her saying, add this to the disclosure or whatever, add it to the agenda.
Correspondence.
Correspondence, yeah.
Correspondence. So I was left with the impression, and I was coming with a genuine solution to offer the two sides. It's short and sweet. I'm disappointed that you couldn't define neutrality of space, and I was willing to offer that. And as Councillor Dirksen said, we both need to move a little, and I accounted for that. So in addition to that, I requested a mic because I was absolutely slumped over the podium last time. And so I requested a mic, and I wasn't responded to for that either, making the assumption you guys are taking care of it, the delegation was accepted. So my question is, why was it not accepted? You've got a valid taxpayer in front of you who's going to offer a solution, genuine, real, peaceful for both sides, and you decline it. I'm shocked.
Well, so, do you want to speak, Annaline?
Certainly, Mayor Turton. Through you, Mayor Turton, to you, Bonnie. I know we had discussed that you should try to send correspondence first. We had already had two delegations in the row over the same neutrality. So what we had requested was correspondence in what your ideas were. That was the request. Your correspondence is on. It gets considered in the next section under correspondence. It is on the agenda. If you looked at the agenda, I don't know if you had seen it on there. It's on the next section. It's called Bonnie Hollinger, Meaning of Neutral Space. So it is on for council's consideration. They can pull it or not pull it. That's up to them. What we had asked from you was what your ideas were, but you said that you didn't want to put it
No,
on
I
paper.
wasn't going to share it piecemeal. No,
Right.
I think
Right.
it needed to
And
be
so that
shared
was-
both sides.
And that's kind of what the reasoning was. They were looking for, the correspondence. And so again, it's on there for council's consideration.
So the reason it wasn't formally denied, like I was left believing it was, I prepared for it. I'm prepared to give you a solution.
So this is question period and.
Right
and
on.
Apologize if we offended you. Intent was not to offend anybody. We felt that a definition of neutrality possibly could have been helpful. But we chose that, we heard what you said 2 weeks ago, and we figured it was a lot of the same.
No,
And-
actually, it isn't.
Okay, so. um,
Okay.
So when we pass the correspondence, we can have that pulled out and we'll look at that. And if we have questions, we'll certainly get back to you. On the other hand, what you're saying is your thoughts on neutrality are not in your editorial in correspondence.
Correct. That's very short and sweet.
Okay? So just give me a few minutes to debate that, and we'll go on to the next question, okay?
Hello, Mayor Turton and Council. Maybe I'm not allowed to ask this question. It's just in reference to the question that I asked at the council meeting on May 21st. I had sent you a follow-up email. Basically, I'm looking to find out a breakdown of the tax dollars that is spent with our tax dollars towards the DEI initiative. Now, maybe it takes longer. I'm just
Sorry?
wondering if you could tell me.
Meg,
Mhm.
are you telling me that you didn't get that email? Our staff have put together,
Absolutely not. I got a response from you from my email the day after the meeting. You said, thanks, Meg. In other words, you got my email,
Yep.
right?
yep, that's
was
what that was
cool.
for.
But I never have
Okay.
received anything since.
Then that's my fault, and I apologize. A communication breakdown, I think. I'll send that to you this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, and I apologize again.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Jessica. Other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to allow that short explanation. Being as there's not many questions, we have little time. I was expecting more questions, and if everybody's okay with that, then let's go ahead. Bonnie?
Again, my name is Bonnie Hollinger. And Mayor Turton and councillors. I'm going to be addressing the issue of the two sides. I think everybody knows what they are. I'm not going to name them. Those speaking for the alternative lifestyles and those who desire signage, banners, flags, and ratepayers who do not support the public signage, banners, and flags. I intend to do so speaking respectfully right down the middle, both sides providing a solution that can bring this entire issue to a peaceful closure, valuing both sides because both sides have valid points. Councillor Dirksen, you mentioned last week, perhaps we both need to move a little. I agree, but we're using and misusing the language. The issue is we are experiencing stems from the foundational misuse of the English language, making it a tenuous and strong disagreement. In last meeting, what stood out to me were two words, specifically inclusivity and neutrality. Inclusivity shouldn't need a definition, but it includes everyone, all parties, all groups. And this makes it unnecessary to make a statement of everybody's included, and now this separate group is also included in order to feel inclusive. This would include all-inclusive color symbols. and I only speak for myself, I don't identify with a color. But an open, factual, and truthful conversation is not possible if we aren't using definitions. So I brought my dictionary, and I've memorized the definition of neutrality. And it is, sorry, I've jumped the gun here. Councillor Elliott expressed a very valid concern that everything becomes black and white. How can we have Christmas? And he's absolutely correct. Councillor Anderson mentioned that we can't honor nurses or first responders with neutral or black and white, and she's absolutely right. We're trying to have a discussion based on a neutral black and white space without any claim other than federal, provincial, or Minto material. But using the actual definition, it is the presence of a strong disagreement or a contentious issue and not expressing an opinion or taking actions that support either side, neutral. And that is in the presence of public space. It means no opinion or side is taken with an issue where two sides are in a strong disagreement, polarized, and at an impasse. And we have that here. We've reached the tipping point. Emotions are running high. But neutrality does not require black and white thinking. Let's look at the proper use and demonstrate how it does not require everything to become black and white. Neutrality is applied in the presence of a contentious and strong disagreement, the key word being contentious. This issue is polarized, it's at an impasse, and it calls for a neutral stance in terms of the public environment. And that would mean government wouldn't take sides. No signage in the public domain, either for it or against it. Christmas, nurses, first responders are not contentious issues. I don't think anybody would deny somebody to celebrate Christmas. Even people who are of the alternative lifestyle celebrate Christmas. With regard to the many groups, Lions, Rotary, churches, guides, students, groups, neutrality is not a contentious issue. Everyone has a choice to post as they choose on their own property. All are welcome to participate in public spaces, for example, at a local fair, purchase a booth and have a booth. Those who want to attend it do, and those who don't. How do we have inclusivity in the presence of neutrality? Individuals of an alternative lifestyle are in no way a contentious issue in and of themselves. The contention arises when there's a strong disagreement, two sides both having very strong opinions. So each side moving a little, as Councillor Dirksen mentioned at the last meeting, perhaps the correct word is not inclusion that one side desires, but to stand out and to be recognized. They feel unrecognized. The other side seems to desire to stand up and defend what they do not wish to support in the public sphere. Perhaps both sides would benefit from determining to be upstanding in terms of character, conduct, and contribution to the community. Maybe Minto can adopt the 3 C's and stand out as a community that actually includes all without the need to make additions. As we move forward, let us be respectful and kind, allowing others to live the lives of their choosing. It is my sincere hope that Minto Council will find this to be a very genuine solution to this contentious issue. And I would encourage you as our local government to stand out in terms of a policy that actually is inclusive for all. Put a mark on the map as a small Ontario community that wrestled through a very difficult issue, resulting in a peaceful, practical solution, perhaps even adopting the 3 C's: character, conduct, and contribution to community. We are an inclusive community. I hope that was short enough.
That was good. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope that hasn't set a precedent going forward to have a whatever we just did. A delegation in public question period. So Bonnie, thank you very much. I'm sure we will discuss this again. So you hit the nail on the head. You said it's a policy. That's what we're working on, a policy for all of the spaces and the banners and everything else that we've talked about. So, and hopefully we can dole that out. I think we're committing to doling that out on June the 18th. Okay?
We will be bringing the second draft back for council on June 18th for council's consideration and to receive input. And that's
Okay. Okay. Moving along then to correspondence received for information. Got a motion moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The council receives the correspondence as information. And we got 4 items on correspondence today, and if there's something that you'd like to pull out and discuss, what's your preference? Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I'm trying to look at that. The correspondence from the town of Cochrane. I think they have some very good points in the fact that Toronto's going to receive, they're going to have a $1.2 billion operating shortfall. And the federal government is giving them $12 million to cover their shortfall. Now, I know municipal governments don't run in deficits, which we don't. And we've got to raise our own money through our taxes and such like. And yet they'll turn, and Toronto has supposedly the lowest tax base considering the covering. And they turn around, the government gives them money to cover their shortfall because they didn't budget properly. So I think they're asking here that if they're going to treat Toronto like that, they should be treating the rest of the communities like that. So we have a lot of things that we'd like to do in the town of Minto, for example, and we can't get at them. We have to lay them over a few years ago to make sure we're keeping our budget and money under control and we're not overtaxing the people. So I think they're asking we circulate and maybe we just send a letter of that we would support that resolution. And I would make a motion that we do that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Elliott. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Zimmerman. So we're going to pull this out and support it. Okay,
Thank you. Yeah.
all in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank
Mayor
you.
Chair, could I, just to clarify though, it was $1.2 billion to cover their operating shortfall and the 12 billion was for their police operating budget.
Yep.
Yes.
Not 12 million to cover their shortfall. The 12 million is for the police budget. The 1.2 is for their shortfall.
Okay. Yeah, it's very clear in there. So
Still a lot of money.
yeah, it is.
We can get $1 million easy here.
A couple million.
Okay, so we're looking at anybody else want to pull something out and discuss? We basically heard Bonnie, so thank you for that. So I read the motion. All in favor of the other 3? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Elliott for the Community Services Report.
And I'll ask Matt Lubers if he would speak towards that, if he could. He's our man of the hour.
Thanks.
Matt?
Thanks, Councillor Elliott. We met just last week at the Palmerston Arena and had a good meeting. Some of the highlights include a review of the busy months of April and May at the Norgan, facilities and in programs. The live show at the Norgan went well on April 11th with the Sandpipers, and we're bringing them back this weekend for Party in the Park, which is set for this Saturday in Palmerston. We hosted some large events this spring, including the Life Outdoors Show in Clifford, the Hospital Gala in Harriston, and the Spark Symposium in Palmerston, just to name a few. We started up a 6-week grassroots volleyball program for the first time and also saw a record level of interest in the 6-week kids ball hockey league with 40 teams. Previous high was 24, meaning that just under 280 kids and their families would converge on the Palmerston Arena on Thursday nights. We had quite a bit of new business where we discussed outdoor washrooms and their hours of operation, the infield of the new diamond in Palmerston, the recreation master plan process, outdoor pickleball, and hours of operation at the outdoor pools. So in all, we had a lot to discuss as we transition from spring to summer in the department.
That's it.
That's it.
That was a lot. At our meeting, it went for a long, long time. And we put Matt to the wall, Matt and Greg, and asked a lot of tough questions that we've been dealing with, including the Clifford Arena, including our ballparks. And they've got a big job to do. And as much as we asked them tough questions, they handled it very well. And they are working to do the best for our community. And I thank your people for doing what they can do, and we're asking for more, and that is something. So I have a motion, if I can find it here. All right, hang on a sec. The motion is to receive the service plan minutes. We got the motion.
Right at the top.
Yeah. Moved by Turton and second by Councillor Gunston. The Councillor Minto receives the May 27th, 2024 Community Service Advisory Committee minutes and for information and approves the recommendation contained therein. Any questions? Yes.
Just a quick one through you, Councillor Elliott. When is the sports pad in Harrison supposed to be completed or started? Is it this year, the outdoor pad?
Yeah, through Councillor Elliott, we've done some of the pre-work. Just last week, Wisteria was in to scale back some of the hydro so that we can get at the rest of the trees and then also start to put some fill in. So the goal is to have it done by the end of this year. So we've begun some of the preliminary things that need to be done before you can pour the concrete.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So talking to Matt earlier today, and there's been a request in Palmerston for washrooms. So during the day downtown, and I know it's, we talked about it a little bit here, but I just wanted to thank Matt for putting it together, and we're now leaving a couple of washrooms open over there to do a bit of an experiment, correct? Matt, in reference to vandalism and such like, we'll take that into consideration at a later date.
Right. So through Councillor Elliott, with respect to the washrooms in Lions Park, we're going to leave them open. But with respect to the ones at the ball diamonds, that will be under lock and key, and each user group has a key to get in and use those. So that'll be for rental purposes, but there are a lot of people that pass through the park on their way downtown or to just enjoy the park itself with some of the amenities in there. So we will keep that open. We'll see how it goes, and we just hope that everyone treats them respectfully.
I think the biggest concern was vandalism, that if we left it open 24 hours, the 3 o'clock in the morning gang would come in and wreck our place for it, which they have in the past. But I think our thoughts are, if we close things down for vandalism, we wouldn't have a park. We wouldn't have a lot of things downtown because people tend to vandalize. And we're hoping that they respect this. There's a possibility in the future that we may move a camera, which is in the pavilions, and point it towards the washrooms, and we'll know who goes in and went out. We certainly won't have an idea who vandalized because we'll know the night that it happened. So we may do something like that. If this experiment doesn't work, we can try something like that. It's a possibility. But I really appreciate you people for taking the chance on this, and hopefully it happens, because that's a busy park, and but I live there. I call myself the keeper of the park. I try to get Elaine to get $10 for everybody that walks by, but she won't do it. That was a joke. Anyhow,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All in favor of that motion? Carried. And I'll pass the chair back. Or we're gonna
Pass it over to Councillor Gunson.
Johnson.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Public Works, we have one report tonight or this afternoon, and it's tender results and budget amendment. And Mark Robertson's gonna do the report.
Thank you. Yeah, as mentioned, we have the Clifford Sand Filter Media Replacement Tender Results and budget amendment. Typically, when I come to council and I'm talking about the Clifford Lagoons, it's about how good a quality the effluent is and a whole bunch of good stuff. However, this time, over the past couple of years, the effluent quality has degraded a little bit. Town staff identified it was likely due to the sand filters not operating at optimum capacity. We've done some maintenance to them, removing vegetation, tilling them up to remove compaction, some other things like that, and had limited success restoring the sand filters. So we reached out to the original consultants, GM Blue Clan, who were the consultants during the construction of the lagoon. And we wanted to make sure that the sand filters were operating as originally designed. They completed a report that identified the sand in sand filters was at end of life. It's no longer working properly. And in that report, they provided a cost estimate to remove and replace the sand. It was $204,000 was the cost estimate for that. We didn't have that report at the time of the 2024 capital budget. We put 50,000 in as a placeholder, knowing that there was going to be work needed, but not the full extent of works required. While reviewing the cost estimate, we noticed some opportunities for some cost savings by just managing the project a little differently, having town staff manage the project completely, sourcing all materials, and working with local pre-qualified contractors that have experience with filter sand, as well as the town staff providing all labor on the project. The largest portion of this project is procuring the actual filter sand, and that's the tender we have here today. We did receive 2 bids. Dunnigan's Haulage Limited was the low bid at $31 per metric ton of filter sand delivered to the Clifford Lagoon at approximately 1,400 cubic meters of volume required. That converted over is about $86,800 in filter sand. Yeah, recommend we go with Dunnigan's. They were the low bid. It is a special sand. It's a filter sand that has a specification to it given to us by the engineers. Dunnigan's are sourcing the sand from Whitechurch aggregates, and that sand does fall within the spec from the engineer. We got lucky that Whitechurch aggregates is only about 30 minutes from the Clifford Lagoon, and that travel time is where a large portion of the cost comes from. As you can see in the tender results that we did receive, there was a large variance in the two, and that's equated to the distance they needed to be hauled. We have $50,000 in the 2024 capital budget. We're asking for an amendment of an additional $90,000, bringing the total ask to $140,000. The remaining budget after procurement of the sand will be allocated to a number of things. Irrigation piping that needs to be replaced in the sand filters, earthworks, the excavation and replacement of the sand in the filters, filter material. There's a sand or filter fabric that separates the sand layer from the aggregates below and the subsurface drainage. And then just equipment to move material around the site, as well as some miscellaneous aggregates, gravel, other things we're going to need for the project. We also added a $20,000 contingency to the project. The subsurface drainage of the filters may need to be replaced. We have inspected 50% of that infrastructure, and it does look like it's in good shape. We won't be able to inspect the other half until we get the sand excavated. And that time we could decide if we need to replace it or not. But I don't foresee that being an issue, as the rest of it does look pretty good. So, any
Thanks, Mike.
questions?
I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The Council of the Town of Minto receive report PW 2024-016 regarding Clifford Sand Filter Media Replacement, tender results, and budget amendment. That the town's 2024 capital budget be amended by $90,000 to include additional funding for the Clifford Sand Filter Media Replacement Project, with funding provided from the Wastewater Capital Reserve. And the Council of the Town of Minto awards tender PW 2024-06, supply, load, haul, and deliver filter sand to Dunnigan's Haulage 2010 Limited for the estimated total of $86,800 excluding HST. Any questions for Mark? Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. Not really a question, I guess, but I just wanted to say thank you for spending some time with the engineers and so on and finding ways to make this work. And I also wanted to say it was a whole lot more interesting listening to you tell us about this than it was reading that engineer's report. So no questions, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mayor Turton.
It's nice to see you have that all memorized too, Mark. So the Clifford Filter Sand Media, it's the only application that we have in Minto similar to that. The other ones are different, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And the filter, it does add an extra layer of treatment, and that's why we have such a good quality product.
It's an excellent use for capital reserve. I mean, that's kind of why we have that, right? Treasured up. So I also congratulate you guys in coming up with a solution, and it's half the price. That's excellent. So thanks for that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Has passed. Thank you. I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. And we have one item on the finance report this evening, and it's regarding the tangible capital assets policy, and I'll turn it over to Treasurer Duff to take us through his report.
Great. Thank you, Chair Dirksen. So this is kind of a bit of a housekeeping matter in a way, but also one of those things that, yeah, we should get to it, and we never have. So for some of us that have been around a while, you may remember when the concept of tangible capital assets came in 2009, and we had to pick thresholds for whether an item would be capital or not. It's beyond just monetary value. It could be the nature. Will it add to the life of the asset, or is it just a very large repair? So it's the dollar value plus the underlying nature of it. So as part of our recent asset retirement obligation project, it became apparent that our outdated policy was not really good enough going forward. So we had the same fellow helping us and lots of his other clients. And we kind of were able to tap into their expertise working with other municipalities and updating our tangible capital asset policy. So again, I think it'll make it a little more useful in making that decision, because so many of these things you can say, is it operating or is it capital? And this gives a few more guidelines to consider. I think the upshot will be there's going to be fewer things that we put in capital. So you may see repairs and maintenance going up and capital coming down for some of these ones. Not to mention, we've had 2 years of huge inflation that have really made our our previous guidelines even more outdated. So anyway, it is 15 pages of fascinating reading, and I'm sure you saw that. But it was good because I was able to consult with other department heads and get their input. And we'll try this out and modify again in the future if we need to. But it does bring us a bit more up to date with these asset policies. So happy to take any questions, but we put it forward.
Any questions for Treasurer Duff? Okay, I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Elliott and seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto receives report Finance 2024-009 regarding the tangible capital assets policy and adopts the policy as attached. Nobody thought of any questions? Calling the question, all in favor? Thank you. That passes. And thanks for making that verbal report more interesting than the written word too. And I'll pass the chair back to the mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. And I neglected to say earlier that if anybody here wants to vacate, that's fine. You can leave whenever you want, but you can stay until the end as well. So the
Just
next.
one report left,
Sorry,
so.
just, yeah, we're getting close. So I'd like to ask Annalene to present the CL 2024-006 and the policy review, please.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. And let's just end the meeting with the exciting policies. Oh, if people are leaving.
We'll just
Can we
take.
wait a moment.
Annalene, if you just
Yep.
maybe take a second while some of our friends are leaving. Take care, Peter. Thanks for coming. Get some of those houses built and let's get them sold. Okay, thanks a lot. Annalene, please
Yes.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Again, this was another exciting review of policies. I see that not many people are that excited about it as I am. Anyways, in 2016, we passed and approved a policy on our code of conduct, accountability and transparency, and then it was revised in 2019. So in reviewing all of this, we decided to separate those out into separate ones. That's kind of the norm and the standard in how they are. And it also makes it easier if there's legislative changes that only affect those certain policies to make those changes and update them. So for your review are the code of conduct for council members. And I'll just give you a little update on kind of what that is. So under the Municipal Act, the Code of Conduct requires at least 4 topics: gifts, benefits, and hospitality, respectful conduct, including conduct towards officers and employees, confidential information, and use of property of the municipality or the local board. So a few of the changes made with the new one, or some additions, would be Section 10, which is improper use of influence. We made sure to put that in there. Section 15, respect for the code of conduct, and Section 16, which are penalties for non-compliance with the code of conduct. And as well, we kind of expanded the complaint procedure on the code of conduct, and it kind of gives you your informal and formal procedure, and also states that gifts and benefits, add a disclosure statement for gifts and benefits with the value of over $100 is required for any members of council. I'll let you know, this isn't being made as a part of the council is really bad and they require this change. This is being made as a part of our policy review. Council has always been very good at following our code of conduct. And again, we just need to make sure that we are most up to date. As far as accountability and transparency, the policy again is required and it just is been updated. We do have a new policy, the use of corporate resources during election. This policy usually falls within our election procedures. But best practices is to have a separate use of corporate resources during election policy. And the council staff relations policy, which was in place, has been updated for best practices. And that's where the change has been on there. The public complaints resolution procedure policy. So in accordance with the Ontario Ombudsman, every municipality should have a general complaint policy approved by council. And so again, it is a policy that's attached and is passed by senior management. And the code of conduct for employee policy, again, this is just something that you should have. And this is for information as it is passed by senior management. If there's any questions?
Thank you, Clerk McRobb. The recommendation is moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report CL 2024-006 regarding policy review, that the council endorses the implementation of the Code of Conduct for Employees Policy and the Public Complaints Resolution Procedure Policy as written, and that the council provide feedback on the Code of Conduct for council members' policy, accountability and transparency policy, use of corporate resources during an election period, and the council staff relations policy. And that staff bring back final drafts of the policies and bylaw at a future meeting for council's consideration. Questions? Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I was wondering about the item 8 in policy number 1.2. I don't know how to help you find it. It's page 162, numbered at the bottom.
So 1.2 is the current one that we're under. That's the current policy that we're under. So that policy would be gone and it would be replaced with all the other policies.
Okay, but the wording is still that a member of council may not use municipal property for an election, correct?
Yes, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
find number
sorry.
8.
Yeah, I didn't, I scrolled to the wrong one. But anyway, so this is something I always wondered about. A few years ago, someone, a sitting member of council who was running for the next election, used council business cards going door to door, got his knuckles wrapped. Fair enough. But I'm wondering about cell phones, because some of us have our own cell phones and receive a stipend for that. Wasn't sure if that was the right word. Thank you. And then others use town cell phones that are paid for by the town. So if you are running an election, if you are running for an election and you put your cell phone number on your cards that you've paid for, not town business cards, how do you manage that?
So I'm just going to have to pull up the current one that we have. Just give me 1 second here, please. There's a lot of policies here.
There's a lot of policies here. That's why I'm on the wrong page. Sorry.
That's all right. And I'm almost there. I'm at the accountability and transparency one here. So use of corporate records. So you're wanting to know then about the use of cell phones. If it's your own cell phone, then of course you could use it. If it's a town-owned cell phone, no, you should not be using that. You would have to have a private cell phone or home number to use. You should not be putting a number on a cell phone that is provided to you by the town.
Even
for
if you're
town
using
use.
your own, but you're receiving a stipend, that's okay,
yeah.
but not
That's
if it's
that's a personal
town-owned.
cell phone
Okay,
that we are, yes, that's correct.
okay. It's just something I've always wondered about, and now you sparked my curiosity again
Yeah.
by putting out this policy. So, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
Is there any feedback other than that?
Questions or feedback? Hearing none. I've read the resolution. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And now we're at announcements. Councillor Dirksen, do you want to start, please?
Oh, sure, I'd love to. I'm not going to steal anybody else's thunder because I know these two have something to talk about. So I'm going to talk about Local Food Week in Ontario, which is the week we are in right now. So the Minto's Farmers Market is up and running and outside the Railway Museum in Palmerston. And so if that doesn't work for you, there's several farm markets in Minto where you can buy direct from a farmer, and grocery stores often note how local food is. So how many kilometers sometimes your food that is in the grocery store is from. So just wanted to make the council aware that it is Local Food Week here in Ontario. Thank you.
Councillor Zimmerman.
I opened the door for you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to steal some of Councillor Gunson's pleasure here. This past Saturday, June 1st, was our annual pancake breakfast for the Harriston Station of Minto Fire. And as I promised the meeting before, it was perfect weather. We ended up serving well over 700 breakfasts Saturday morning. So I can't say enough thank you to the community for the continued support that we have come to know.
It was really good.
Yes, and I'm sure Deputy Mayor Anderson has something to add to Saturday's event.
Thank you very much. And indeed, it was a beautiful day and the garden festival took place right across the parking lot from the breakfast. I wasn't able to partake of the breakfast because the garden festival was booming right off the bat. Lots and lots of people there, excellent presentations for the kids from Vic Palmer from Clifford, which was enjoyed by a large group. Lots of people out enjoying the sunshine and picking up new horticultural delights to plant in their garden and nurture. So thank you to everybody who came out. And just a note with food, not local food per se, but David has been handing out those food cards and there are a few left for people, but he's not there this week because he's at FCM. So just so that people know if they still need a card, contact me and we'll make sure they get one. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
You talking to me? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thought you were going to Mr. Gunson first, Councillor Gunson. All right, I'm good. Party in the Park this weekend. It's an annual event that we have.
Just a little closer. A little closer to your mic, sorry.
Party in the Park. We have two musical groups that play. They start at 7 o'clock and we end at midnight. It's always been a very popular event and the money always obviously goes back in the community. We share with the Norgan Theatre Board and they get half the money, half the proceeds, and that money goes right back to the Norgan Board to operate our Norgan Theatre. While I'm talking about Norgan Theatre, we're looking at maybe in a year's time replacing all the new seats in the place. We've made enough money that we put a bunch of money in reserves, and maybe with a bit of share from Treasurer Duff, in a year's time, we'll have all new seats and new flooring put in there. So we're hoping to do that. That part of the money will be going towards something like that too. And on Saturday also, Walk a Dog program. It's money goes towards the dog guide program. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, they train dogs to help the blind, deaf, people with autism, and all kinds of different problems that people may have. These dogs are provided for to help these people, these handicapped people, and it's money well spent. Costs an awful lot of money to train them. Just quite amazing what these dogs can do and how they help people in their lives. So that's happening Saturday morning. That starts at 9 in the morning, and you could come and donate some money towards that program or not, and that would be possible. I think we met what our goal was going to be, but we're certainly looking as much as we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Gunson.
Well, Councillor Zimmerman stole my thunder, so just want to thank everybody for coming out. And on behalf of the firefighters, I just want to thank everyone that supported the breakfast, whether donations or coming and supporting us, or the co-op for donating the propane. So thanks for everybody that was part of that.
Thank you. I have a couple as well. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but Friday morning in the township of Mapleton, there was an announcement by the Catholic School Board. We are there's a new school going up in Mapleton. It's going to house, I believe, 222 students. And it's going to be a spot for 64 licensed daycare spots. So Minister Lecce and our MPP, Mr. Ray, were both there, and pretty exciting for the community. They're hoping to have it built by September 26th. I know that's not much time, but second thing, on May 11th, it was a Saturday up in Clifford, and I neglected to announce this last meeting. Vic Palmer up there led a charge to plant 1,000 trees in and around the trails. So there was quite a number of people, and the trees were in the ground within an hour and a half. So I just like to mention Vic and his entourage. There was quite a number of volunteers to help plant the trees, and it was a really good day. So we thank those volunteers, and we thank Vic for, I understand Vic was there on Saturday, so he's a great volunteer. So the Minto Chamber of Commerce on July 9th, they're having their annual annual barbecue, and it's at the Clifford Rotary Park. So, and last but not least, I have an announcement. I'd like to introduce our new CAO, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Greg, but I'd like to welcome you to Minto. I know that you are a Minto resident. You've been here for quite a long time. Your family, you're raising your family here in Minto, and that's a wonderful thing. Greg his first day will be June 10th. That's next Monday morning. And so we have our acting interim CAO, Mr. Chris Harrell, will be taking on his passion. As you're aware, we've shared services with Mapleton and Wellington North, our fire service, and Chris is our chief, and he's going to get back to doing what he likes best. That's a true statement, right?
I have no comment.
And Mark Potter, who has been our, as well, our deputy treasurer, he's going to retire on June the 18th. So I would just like to, couple things here. Welcome Greg, and thank Chris and Mark for their service to this town over the last year and a half, 2 years, however long it's been. And good luck to you in your endeavors in the future. So again, we'll talk later, Greg, but welcome to Minto. I know that's, you live in Minto, but welcome to the CAO's job for the town of Minto. So thank you. If there's nothing else, we're going to move back into regular council, moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz.
Please
Sorry?
change that name. Please
sorry.
change Potnovitz. Thank you.
Just missed.
We'll change that to Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Thank you.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Committee of the Whole convenes into regular council. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. Notices of motion. Any notices of motion today? Okay. Seeing none, I've got a resolution moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in Committee of the Whole. All in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you. Bylaws. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that bylaw 2024-031 to appoint a chief administration officer be read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. That's official, Greg. So another resolution moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that bylaw 2024-032 to confirm the actions of the council of the corporation of the town of Minto respecting a meeting held June 4th, 2024 to be read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the council of the town.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Please change that last. Second by.
Councillor Zimmerman.
Thank you.
That the council of town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you very much.